art students are not the same thing. So it was just, at first it was like, oh, this is so much fun. They're all mad.
So today's visit is in the workspace, around the recent workspace of Kelvin Au, who is a Hong Kong artist. It's quite a unique story, yours, I would say.
Is it? I've traveled back and forth a bit. So I was born here, but I grew up flying back and forth between Hong Kong and Canada. I'm what you might call slightly older, so I've had a lot of work experience and another career first, and only recently I've been able to really get into going back to art school and learning to be an artist.
Yeah, in that context it's pretty unique because, I mean, I have spoken with people who had another career before that. We'll see, we'll talk about it. So you are just graduating now.
Yes.
From the sculpture department.
Yes. So the Hong Kong Art School, the degree is done in conjunction with RMIT from Australia. And the curriculum is largely designed by them, especially the art criticism or art history component. But the teachers for the practice side are all Hong Kong based artists, and they are artists really, sort of teaching artists, which is interesting too in a way.
If they manage to share their knowledge, because that's sometimes an issue for practicing artists, to share the knowledge instead of people who are like more of a teacher than an artist. I don't know.
There's a range. Yes, their personality makes a big difference, and we probably at various times we just like to be alone doing the work, but there are teachers that you can tell they're very good at nurturing and encouraging and sort of bringing out what you want to do as a student artist, as opposed to, as if you were wearing your artist hat, you might just say, well, I have my own problems dealing with my art already. I don't need yours. But I mean, there's that. You can see who the teachers are.
Yeah, because it's a different type of approach also. And if you have multiple students, which every teacher has multiple students, you probably sometimes need to shift that approach a little bit depending on the person in front of them.
If you have that personality, it'd be great, because even for me, coming back to school, and the course is designed to allow for a mix of ages, and it's designed so that we can come to evening classes and so on. So there's a lot of, it's not as if everybody just graduated from secondary school and then went to art school. So there's a range of ages, the demographic is spread out, and you get a lot more. It's interesting for me to come back and be with young students again. I mean, even though I work at a university, art students are not the same thing. So it was just, at first it was like, oh, this is so much fun. They're all mad. but after 3 years, it's like, oh my God, I can see the different types of personalities. And
it's funny that you say they're all mad, because in Bulgaria, where I have graduated first, when you apply for the school, you have to go and get a certificate that you are officially not mad. It's one of the requirements.
Because past experience
maybe
obligates the government to take care of the other students in the class.
I don't know where that originated, but yeah.
Actually, you could turn that into an artwork somehow. I don't know. It would be funny. It could be a story.
It's a story for sure. I'm not sure. I don't have the document anymore, because when you give your application documents, you have to give that to them so they are sure, okay, this person is sane. ish.
But how did you? So you have to go for a test. You have to see a psychologist.
I guess theoretically you have to go to a test, but in practice it was just you go, pay a fee, and they give you the document. So I don't know how practical it is to have that requirement anymore.
That's quite funny.
Yeah.
I think we should do that here. There wouldn't be any students left.
Let's talk first about space, because there's usually a different background in my talks. And this is the first time outdoors that we're talking, and there are butterflies flying around, some birds, and a lot of cars. It's very interesting for me.
Because she's come to Hong Kong at really the nicest time of year. It's warm, but it's dry, cool evenings.
November is the time.
We're here in November.
It's perfect. Perfect summer.
Oh my God, yes. Actually, that's true. Anywhere this would be nice for a summer.
So we are at the moment on the top of the school. There's this rooftop balcony.
So we're in an old government primary school near the harbor. It's an old building, so it's 3 stories tall, and we're on the top floor. We sometimes use it now that it's being used as an art school. We use this space for performances and installations, but it's got a great view of the harbor, and what you can't see is behind you there's a highway. But
yeah, I hope the noise cancellation of these mics is strong enough. We'll see later.
It's not quite as beautiful as you might think. It's beautiful this way.
That's why we set it up like that. Yeah, this is part of why this is so unique episode also. So this also can open up the theme about, because all the episodes before I've had are with people who already graduated, already have a studio space or a history of studio spaces. But this is a good opportunity to just talk how is it to be in the process of graduate, because you just had your final evaluation session, so we could say now you are a professional artist, graduated, and you already have some idea in mind where your studio would be, but it's not always the case with people, is it?
It depends. I mean, the larger picture is, of course, as you've learned from being here, the space is a big issue in Hong Kong. Everything's so tight, and it's expensive to rent space for studios. Many students, especially the painters, because I think it's easier for them to sort of share a space, maybe, I don't know. If you're a ceramicist, you need a kiln and all that sort of business, but I know that very early on, a lot of my classmates who are focused on painting already started looking and sort of trying to suss out who they got along with best in class, and then maybe they could start sharing studio spaces. I left it quite late, mainly because actually I mean, you might understand this. I joined this art school in the painting stream. I just wanted to learn to paint better, basically. It was very simple. And then I just discovered the curriculum is such that you're forced to learn in your first semester 4 different disciplines. So there's painting, there's ceramics, there's photography, and there's sculpture. And when I got to sculpture, I just thought, this is mind-blowing. I liked that freedom of working with a space as opposed to largely a canvas. I mean, primarily if you're a painter. And so I switched into sculpture, which means that you have different spatial requirements. And just to make it clear, we're not doing traditional sculpture here, like chiseling marble or woodwork.
Very few people.
Yes, you have to go to Rome or to Italy somewhere to learn, I don't know. I've seen on IG, apparently.
They still did that in Sofia when I was
really?
studying, but I guess it kind of depends afterwards if you want to continue to, or just like move to some other form of sculpture?
I think in maybe some traditional art schools, like in
Yes.
mainland China, the large established traditional art schools, you put through the grinder just working with traditional, copying great masters, I suppose, and just doing that sort of thing. But now for us, sculpture is basically, actually one of the universities here they don't call it sculpture as a discipline anymore. It's just sort of object-based studies. So it can be anything. You can use ready-made, you can use found objects, you can do installation, sound, all that counts under, because schools need to, put you under an umbrella in order to teach you and slot you in. But it's so open that I didn't know what I was going to do. So what sort of studio would I need? I mean, we can come back to this later in terms of artists, but there's one called, what's her name now? Cornelia Parker, is that? She did an exploding shed. Do you remember? Do you see? Anyways.
Yes, I can check also. But yes,
she claimed, she went through art school too, and similar to me, she started in the painting stream and then came out working with objects. And she said, you don't need a studio. You can, it's more sort of conceptual.
Yes, I think you're right. It's Cornelia Parker.
Yes, Cornelia. So she's great. I mean, quite fun, her stuff, which I also like. But yeah, going back to space, it depends what you really want to do. And for me, I left it a bit late. But now, I guess this might be a recurring theme too. If you just put yourself out there and ask around and start talking to people, strangely, doors just opened up, and people would say, oh, if they can see that you're serious about it, then they'll think, oh, so-and-so has a space. You can talk to them and maybe, or shop around and see if there's something available. But it's hard work in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Well, you were lucky enough that you have kind of arrangement already for your future studio.
Yes, it's in a place that you know as well, because
it's where Clio's studio is, which has already been recorded, that episode. So
okay, it's quite. I mean, it's a nice space compared to, because there's facilities, like a pantry, and there's there's.
They have very nice organization of the space.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen some. Aaron, my boyfriend, who is also an artist, and his studio is in. He shares with two other artists and they're in a real sort of industrial building. It's basically a warehouse, and downstairs trucks are unloading, flour. There's a bakery or something. I mean, it's
more robust.
You don't want to go to the washroom there unless you have to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there are many sculptors that have pretty messy work.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I mean, we'll see how this goes. Because as you may remember, this weird arrangement with this course, where the curriculum is, because it's Australian, so it starts and ends at the calendar year. But for the Northern Hemisphere schools, the end of the year is in, around May, June, July. And so they want us to have our graduation show around the same time as everybody else in the territory.
Interesting.
So we have this weird gap now, after officially graduating from an Australian university in December. But our grad show isn't until, actually, I think it's July, which is actually a godsend because it gives us time to work. Otherwise, it would just be a mad scramble.
Yeah. Why is that, I wonder?
I think they just find that more people like, if you start seeing one grad show, it's like, oh, there's another one next week, and then we can go and catch that too.
So you mean other universities here have their graduation shows in July as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Because their academic year finishes in
So
May,
it's only
June.
your school in Australia that does that end of the year?
Yes, because it's Australian.
Interesting. I didn't know. I mean, Australia is very far from physically from me and from my mind, so I really didn't know that. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Have you been?
No.
Oh, you should go.
I would like to. It would be really something. I mean, this is really something for me already, but that's another world there. Yeah. Oh, one day, maybe.
Artist residency in...
Yes, I have to find one residency there. So yeah, I mean, I will show the school and the premises a little bit. This is where you did your work.
I love it actually. It's the whole school it's a bit retro because it's so old. Compared to the rest of Hong Kong, this is an extremely old building because everything gets torn down so quickly here. But I remember coming to my first class, and it was in January 3 years ago. The rest of the world had opened up after COVID already, but we were still wearing masks to come to school that first semester. So I didn't know what, you didn't know
what people look like.
Yes, you couldn't really see.
Oh wow!
And I remember what happens is that for every semester, the first week, we have something called an intensive week, and a few Australian teachers fly over to sort of start the ball rolling. And what happened was that they were given these sort of like industrial strength face masks, and you could see they were just really suffering trying to lecture through the masks at all of us.
I can't even imagine.
And we were sitting there going, who is this person? Why don't they just use the regular? I mean, we had barely passable. I mean, they did the job, but they weren't the kind of.
Oh, because I guess those masks were considered proper, more isolating and safer.
Yeah, I think, and also Australians take that sort of health and safety thing very seriously. So I think they were issued those masks and they had to wear them. And we were trying to give them, Hello Kitty masks and saying, these are much lighter, you don't need those. And they were demurring. But so I remember coming first semester, first class, and thinking, wow, this is really fun. It's great. I love being at school.
You said you went back to school because you wanted to learn to paint better. Did you do it just for your own sake, for you to, like, as a hobby thing, or did you intentionally in the beginning, or like, I'm going to be an artist now and I need to go to school to learn how to do that?
Yes, I wanted to be, if there's such a thing, a proper artist. Because, a quick background is that my first degree was in literature, in English literature, and then I went into advertising. I did a course at a certificate at it was in graphic design. I graduated the year that the Mac came out, so that will tell you my vintage. So I know a bit about design. I worked with photography back then, and it was all analog. I was so coming back and doing art school here. They have a great darkroom here. I was astonished. It was actually bigger than the one I went to in Canada. And it was just like old times. I immediately knew where everything was. It all came back, the smell, anyways, it was great. But that was the background. So I do have some training in design and a little bit about the technique, some art history. But then I worked for 10 years in advertising, first as an art director, and then as a copywriter.
Okay.
And then I decided I wanted to work more with the language side. So I went back to university and did a master's in English language. And also switched to working at a university. I basically became slightly burnt out from working in advertising. After 10 years, it was enough.
What a surprise.
I mean, it was fun if you're a fresh grad, right? When you're a fresh grad, you can get paid and not have to sit at an office desk all day. You go out, follow photo shoots.
There was a movie I watched once. It was this kind of hip movie. I don't remember what it was called. I will check it later. But it was exactly about that. The main guy, he was working in advertisement, and he almost went mad from it. And seriously, like in the end, he killed himself. But it's better to go to school, not to kill yourself, for sure.
Yes. I mean, I'm not surprised. They were mad too, actually. A lot of if you, I mean, it's very competitive. It's not competitive like artists are competitive. I mean, because you're basically selling.
No.
At the end of the day, it's all wrapped up in capitalist narrative, if you want to talk about that. But on the ground, you need to show how creative you are, and you have. I mean, I was very lucky. I still have some friends who are former colleagues, but not many, because there are a lot of personality. You know, people don't get along. And I went back to school, and I also started, I had such a great time. I started looking around on campus, you know, at universities for jobs. And also at the same time, there was another sort of shift. My parents started to get more and more ill. And my father, who had his own business, the business failed, and he basically went bankrupt. So he asked, you know, could they move in with me? Would I take care of them? So of course, there's no question. I'm a single child, so the answer was easy. But it also meant a shift in my outlook. What do I want to do? Where am I going with this? The university provided a stable job environment, so that was, and I'm grateful for that. I was trying to become a better writer, so I focused more on that. And also the thing with taking care of your parents is, I mean, this comes up later, and it's now something that I use in my work, is that it never felt to me like a burden taking care of them, because it was I mean, I was lucky enough that I had a choice. I could make that choice to do it. I had, you know, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was able to provide for us, the three of us. And the most important thing was that it gave my life a sense of purpose. It's sort of, once you have that, it's amazing. You know, everything else sort of falls in place. And so that was what happened for 20 years, basically. And it became progressively more difficult because there were more ailments. They fell over. My mom had a heart condition. My dad had an ongoing case of diabetes and high blood pressure. I mean, all these things. But it was part of what my life was. But at the same time, Hong Kong, the past 10, 15 years has seen a lot of growth in terms of accessibility to art. The art market, and the art market globally has developed in this weird way with what do they call those? Like Art Basel, and with art shows, the art fairs around the world. And you know, a place like Hong Kong, they come here because there are people with money
who buy art.
To buy art, right? So it made access to a lot of big names easier for me to see what was going on. And gradually I felt, you know, one day when my parents are not here anymore, that would be what I would want to do. I mean, it sounds a bit awful to say that, I suppose, but
I mean, it's just natural, of course, when your parents get older, you start to think about these things, and especially when you take care of them, it's hitting you every day, basically.
Yeah, so I have a lot of sympathy for sort of caregivers, and I mean, it doesn't need to be what's called elder care. Like, it's not necessarily about a older parent or older spouse even, or a family member. It can be, you know, if you're a parent, you're always on as well, I think, in the same way. You're always, maybe it's not exactly the same, but I just think that caregiving in its broadest sense is an idea that I'm kind of interested in.
And your work, that is now graduation work, is also about that, right?
Yes.
In a way.
So, should I talk about that? Do you want to hear about it?
I want to hear about it. Tell me about it.
It started with trying to use these things. My mom passed away 3 years ago, and my dad passed away earlier this year. And there are a lot of things that belong to them that are still in the house or in the flat that I have not been able to bring myself to clear out. And I just tried to think, I just thought, okay, maybe I can use this as ready-mades, use it in my art. And basically it was a really long process because you want it to be good art and not just, you know, something that's, oh, you know, this is...
Ideally, yes.
And really that does take time. So it took this final year to bring that all together. I tried taking apart my mom's old wheelchair. She had things, and, you know, working with things like that. I may still use it somehow, but I eventually found that I could use their walking canes and put it into this sort of half spherical concrete base. And it's basically, it becomes, I don't know what the English term is. I think it's called a weeble wobble. I don't know what.
I don't know what the English word is for that.
Is there another term?
It's like the toy that you push
over
and then it comes back.
Yes, it never falls over completely. And for me, that was an interest. I like that metaphor in the sense that it's like you feel like you're trying to provide the best support you can, but sometimes it's sort of comically unstable, and you're stressed out. Things are not working out. You have things to do in the day, and you know you have to get them to the medical checkup, and there's a mad scramble. But in the end, you get them there, and day after day, it's like that. And the most positive side was that when people come up and play with it, they laugh. It's funny, you know. It's this thing you spent 3 years at art school and you made a weeble wobble. Is that what is that all you've managed to do? But I think that's great. You've turned something that has traces of meaning that's really about frailty, the walking canes, about instability. And you've turned it into something that's really kind of fun to play with. And I mean, it sounds a bit boastful, but I'm kind of proud of that thing.
As you should be.
Very fluke. It was a fluke. You play around that whole process thing where, can I try this? Maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. And it was fun to do, basically. And so now the project is to expand it beyond my own parents' objects. And I've been going around Hong Kong actually buying up or getting hold of other people's used canes. So I'm not buying new ones. I'm buying them from other people. And I'm I want that trace. I want that kind of sense. You can see that it's battered up and used. And just bringing it into a collective. And I think that that says something as well, that it's a community in many senses. And you can, it hopefully opens up questions. It will trigger thoughts in different ways. And when you play with it, hopefully it won't fly back and knock you out. I think there might be some slight insurance issues here, but never mind.
They're not that tall. They can't break a nose.
Was it you who was saying that I should put a sign up about, oh, it was one of my classmates. She said, it's about this high, so it wobbles back. Maybe you should put a sign up that says children who are about this height should not be allowed to touch it, because it
That
could
might
just
be a good
come
point.
back and just take out an eye or something.
That could be a good point. Yeah.
So you heard it here first. We are thinking of that.
It's in my opinion, wonderful work.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
only because it looks visually interesting, it's funny, but it also, I don't know, maybe you can say, did it help you somehow process a bit the situation with your parents? Because this is very traumatic when a person has to take care of their parents and then they pass and all of that. It's a lot of emotions.
Yes, I mean, that certainly came up, and I have to give credit to my teachers. They saw it too. And I think this is the thing about art school, and when you're teaching art practice, is that with every one of our classmates, it became a very personal story. The good teachers really tried to, they're almost like therapists, really. They want you to go in and discover for yourself why you're doing something. And in the different classmates, there are different reasons. And for me, it was really, there was a heaviness still that I was working through. And I mean, there are artists like Dora Salcedo. Do you know her? She did, she's in the Tate, there was that crack in the, called Shibboleth, I think it was called. But she did Mona Hatoum, another artist. They often deal with emotions related to grief and trauma related to war, to crimes against women, injustices. And I don't know how they do it, because they're dealing with grief a lot of the time. It's very heavy. But again, I mean, I cannot actually think of a work from them which is too happy. You know, it's very reflective. They're very contemplative works. There's one, I think, that involves collecting women's shoes that were left behind, the traces of having been vanished or disappeared, and using those. And very, very moving work, very powerful. So I try, you know, it's hard not to be inspired by them, but I just use that as a starting point, I think. You respect and you admire them, but I don't have that kind of steel spine to keep going. It's hard. I don't know how you can do it.
To me, this is really brave to be able to put your own personal story into your work, because then at exhibitions, at like places like this, you kind of have to explain and share that story probably several times, and it's, I don't know if I could do that, honestly. I mean, my work is completely different. Like, I'm kind of separating myself from the work.
No, but I think that that's important too. There's another artist, Laurie Anderson. Do you know her? She's a sound art. She doesn't like to be compartmentalized, but she does. Oh, Superman. Do you know that song? Oh, Superman.
I'm not sure.
She does a lot of narrations in her music, and it's But she said that she's not really tied to sort of, not all art has to be about identity or about who you are. It can just be about something that you're curious about.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm.
Like this, whether or not this bee is going to
end its life here. I hope not.
That's not what I was thinking, but
I mean, you know, when the
That's
bee
interesting.
stings you, it dies.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. The wasp can survive it, but the bee doesn't.
Oh, because it loses the what is that called?
Thingy.
The prong, the sting. Yeah, the sting. The thingy. Yes, correct. That's a technical term.
Absolutely.
There's this. I thought of this artist called. She passed away a few years ago. A British artist called Phillida Barlow. She's a sculptor.
I've heard about her, but I'm not sure I can connect the name to.
She was one of.
Specific
I mean, not that much older than me. Taught at the Slade, I think, for many years, and I've watched many of her lectures online, YouTube, and she's. It's not so much that I see her work and her aesthetic of the work that she does is not at all like something that I would do, but the way that she talks about art and her approach is terrific. It's something that I really, really warm to, and she's very articulate. So she was talking about the difference between, in her opinion, between painting, or the way you engage with a painting and the way that you engage with sculpture and the language. And again, she makes it clear that she was delivering this lecture to a lot of painters. So she was like, I know, you can throw rotten tomatoes at me if you like, but if you're in a painting, the movement is back and forth. There's a kind of very accepted movement from the viewer side. And the painting also, I mean, this is a little, she said it belongs to the institution. What she was suggesting was, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you can make a kind of divide, then it might be useful to see it in terms of the painting is on the wall. The wall is part of the building, and that's a sort of manifestation of authority. It's the building. It's what people build. Whereas sculpture, and she herself says, if there is such a thing as a sculptural language, it's anarchic. It takes up the space that belongs to you, where people are supposed to be. You've intruded into that space. And also it requires a different kind of interaction. You walk around the sculpture and you look at it, and as you process it, you're seeing things that make you think differently from when you started. And by the time you come back to the beginning where you started, you're a different person. I mean, that sounds a bit grand and romantic. Yeah, most of the time, for me, it's sort of like, why is this here? What did I just see? But still, I mean, it's a different interaction, I think. And I particularly like the idea that it takes up space. It takes up space that belongs to other people. And in a way, that wibbly-wobbly thing that I make, I like, because caretakers, there's a statistic that I read about, which was something like caregivers, did I say caretakers? Caregivers are statistically 60% more likely to die earlier than people who don't have that or that responsibility. The reason being that when your whole world is focused on someone else, you don't have time for yourself. You don't schedule medical appointments. You wait for things. You have to put their priorities first. And over the course of your lifetime, especially as you get older, that makes an impact. And so, in a way, caregivers don't take up space. They've given the space to other people. And I think the weebly wobbly is to say, take up space, because your life matters too. You need to take care of yourself in order for you to take care of them.
It's like in the airplane, put your mask first and then put masks to somebody else.
But it's hard. It's really hard sometimes because, I remember my mom has fallen over a few times, and immediately for the next week, everything, getting them, do they need an ambulance? Where do they need them? Right away you shift into this kind of crisis mode. And if there are more and more of these cases, that just, anyways.
It's stressful.
It's stressful.
Definitely adds a lot of stress onto you or anybody who is taking care of somebody.
So how did we get onto this? So Philida Barlow, I like that idea that it's a bit...
What's the name of your work?
Well,
is it called Weebly Wobbly?
The two that you saw, I've just named after my parents. So it's Lillian and Paul. So there's these two canes.
When they are more
the group, I haven't thought of one yet. It'll have to be untitled brackets something or other. I don't know. Maybe imperfect support, but that might be a bit too literal. But that's what I'm trying to convey.
You can always come up with it later.
Yes, I think.
When you exhibited them somewhere.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Then they will ask about it.
I don't know. Do you use untitled?
Never.
Why?
Because I don't like to talk too much about the work or write about it, like some long text. There is like a little paragraph usually, but not too long.
Yeah.
So I think the title reveals some of that idea. And if it's untitled, it sounds a bit like, oh, I was too bored and didn't bother to put a title on it.
I've never understood that. It's like, and sometimes it's untitled brackets something.
5 or 19.
Yes, or the man who shot himself or something. It's like, it's a weird thing. I don't know any. Well, in literature, I don't think.
Can you leave your book untitled?
Untitled. I suppose you could, really. You'd have a job getting past your publisher, probably, but.
Or then people buying it.
Or maybe if it was a story about the art world, maybe you could get away with it. Sort of untitled brackets. The devil wears ... Anyway.
We leave that open.
So I'm hoping to do, I'm hoping to follow in your example and apply for artist residencies, because it's such a, on a very practical level, now that my parents are no longer here, I don't need to be in Hong Kong all the time. I do need to work. But
can you work remotely? What do you work exactly in the university?
I work in the communications office, and I've been there for over 20 years now.
So you just finished your work, the artwork, with the cane, the untitled artwork. What are your plans for now? Do you have some idea where it's going to go afterwards, or is it still kind of the transition happening?
I'm going to continue making that, growing that in terms of the numbers of the canes. So it means going out, and I'm not going to be, it's quite expensive over the long term to do all that, and I need to find a place to put it. So I will look to some sort of grant or apply for support to see if I can show that in a venue that's appropriate. I haven't really thought through that part yet.
How many do you have at this point?
I only have 23 24, 26 or so. It's not that many. I want to get up at least double or triple that number. We'll see how many I can get for the graduation show. But the important thing is actually something I haven't dealt with, which is when I go to buy these things or pick them up from the seller, I try to chat with them. And it's usually quite easy to say, oh, you know, this looks quite new. Is it from your family member or something like that? Because my mum used to use these, or my dad used to use these. And usually they will respond when they see. Sometimes they just don't. They just take the money and want to leave because they don't know who you are, right? Some stranger, some weird guy collecting canes.
But they don't know even if you're collecting them. They maybe think that you're buying one.
I used to have a trolley. I usually try to schedule them so that we pick them up a few at the same time on one day.
Okay.
So they can see, and actually that lends some credibility. They'll see that, oh yes, you know, it's not just him. And I'll tell them what I'm doing. And some of them are interested and say, you know, let me know when your work is ready. And I've picked up some scraps of things that they talk about, you know, why are you selling this? And it's usually some story about the parent having to go into an elderly care home now, so they don't need that, or they're not here anymore, or astonishingly, people are gifting them. Like, they have friends and relatives who gift them canes for their birthdays. Or for Christmas or something, though they have a house full of these, like they have all these canes they don't need to use. People have given them. They think I suppose they think it's a nice present, fine, you know, and they want to get rid of. I mean, these stories, I want to see if I can use them because actually they have an emotional weight that may not be very clear from just playing with the wibbly wobblies. We'll see if I can turn this into some kind of narrative. So that's where I'm trying to take this. But also, you know, thinking beyond just canes, you know, other things. I mean, in the way that you've used 3D scanning, it's sort of a vehicle or a doorway into looking at different buildings or spaces and ideas. Sort of, I'm trying to think of this idea of uncertainty and support. And you know, it's basically living with the contradiction. You know, you try your best, but it's not always the best. You try.
What living is generally?
Yeah, it might be a bit broad, but it might be an idea to look into other.
Broad ideas are not like bad per se. I think broad ideas are something that more people can connect to. Because if it's something very specific, smaller or larger group of people might just not properly understand. But broad ideas, everybody gets acquainted with at some point.
Yeah, I know that, you know, as we talk about this, I don't know how many young artists will relate to what I'm doing. Because
they would not think about these things generally when they're young.
It's a life stage thing in a way. But the United Nations says that there are more of us now. the oldies. So take that, young bucks.
Yeah, I mean, you can speak to whoever you want to speak, you know. Different types of people come to exhibitions.
I mean, I'd like to go to Finland and see, and collect canes and see if there are them, you know, see how that would work. Do the same project there, and you would meet people. And I mean, the process is so much a part of it. I don't know how you would, is there an Etsy or something like that? How would a second-hand?
There is a platform that is where people can sell their old objects.
What's it called?
Tori.
Tori?
Yeah, tori.fi.
I'm not going to try to say that. Oh, that could be. I mean, that whole process I'd have to learn the language. I'd have to get an assistant.
Only if you knew somebody that lives in Finland.
Yes. I mean, it would be a very, I mean, if I just transport it over there, it would be seen as, I don't know, a bit self-indulgent maybe, but at the same time, that whole process of talking to people, it may not be canes, it may be other things that they, other things that I can balance on that wibble, I don't know, chairs.
All these decisions, you know, this is the work of the artist. Constant decisions.
I think it's interesting for me that it's opened me up out of the studio to bring the practice outside of the studio. I never thought that I would do that. You know, starting off as painter, just leave me alone. I just want to put the paint on properly, and then don't touch it, let it dry. You know, it's this change now where I'm like, okay, $50 Hong Kong dollars for that cane it's okay. I'm not paying any more. Can we bargain her down?
Yeah, well, look how more interesting your life gets when you start working on something. You don't know where it's going to take you. Have you done other larger pieces like that, or is this the first one?
I did as an installation piece at an it's just over there actually. It's independent art space that Lee was my teacher for a course called, interestingly enough, art installation, and so, which is quite a brave thing to do in Hong Kong, because where are you going to find the space to put the installation, right? And so she knew this group of artists who had banded together. I think they went together, she knew them from their master's course, or she knew one or two of them she was classmates with. And they have, since graduating, they formed a kind of little collective, and they have this space in a sort of very run-down old industrial building near here that actually will be torn down next year. So I was very lucky. They set up art students residency kind of program, and they chose a few students from Lee's course, and I was very lucky. They thought that they could run with what I was doing, and yes, it was a large scale. I basically got this really thick cords of rope, like you use in boats, where you tie, except not the new sort of polyester plastic kind or whatever it is. It's the old traditional hemp or whatever they've made it from. And I made this gigantic ball that's about up to my chest. It was supposed to be a knot, and inside I put this light that goes on and off, like as if it's breathing. And so I turn the lights down, and so the room becomes this shadow box where...
I would want to see a picture of that.
I can send you a link.
Yes, please do.
I call that via, sort of through. Via? V-I-A.
Via, yeah.
Because it was, again, I wrote on the wall things about that my father had said to me about his father and their relationship. Basically, his father left him and his mum when he was very young, and my father talks about remembering his last day seeing his own dad before he left. It's very, 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 I mean, my dad tends to be from that generation of heterosexual male who doesn't talk about their feelings, you know, it's all very hidden. And for him to open up like that, to me, I've never forgotten it. And he also, I remember he talked about, he remembers the day that I stopped holding his hand. We were
Wow.
crossing the road one day, and he said, I pulled my hand away from them and said, I don't want to hold your hand anymore, Daddy.
Oh
And
no.
I'm like, of course, I had no recollection of this at all. And I'm like, I can't believe you remembered this. Where were we? And he sort of roughly, I know the scene. We were in Canada at the time. And so I wrote these things like that. They're all, I thought, you know, you don't need to say very much, but you have a quote like that. It tells you where the space is, what I'm trying to say with the space. And the light came on and off. Actually, that was process-based. I just thought, can I get something like this? I don't know what the technical term is. You start looking it up. There are electrician shops here, lighting shops. And interestingly enough, the technician said, this is called a breathing light. That technically, yes, you go in and you ask for them. There's some LED circuit board setup that you can buy, and he helped me put it together. But you just slot in your normal light bulb and it will breathe.
Interesting. I didn't know there was a ready-made solution for that.
And I just thought, you know, when I started setting up, I thought this is a bit like my dad's dementia. You know, he comes in and then he goes away. He comes in and then he goes away. And then you can see it in his eyes because he stops tracking you. So he's already gone at that point. So that was all about memories, and it was this big lump of thing. I still have some of the rope downstairs. There was so much of it, such a waste. I couldn't bring myself to throw it out. It was so awful. But yeah, so I made large projects like that. I was incredibly lucky because in Hong Kong it's hard to find the space to do things like that. I'm, you know, so grateful. But you put yourself out there, and I think the community here, I mean, yes, there's a lot of people who he doesn't get along with her and she doesn't like him. And
just like everywhere.
Everywhere else, right? So, but
peopling.
on the whole, yeah. But on the whole, I think, you know, I
found supporting people.
I find it, I mean, I don't want to claim to be an optimist, but I don't see the point in being the other thing, because why, you know? It's if you open yourself up to having to talk about things that you might find vulnerable, I think people usually respond well, or else they just won't be interested, and that's fine too. I have some younger classmates who have said, thinking that it wouldn't get back to me, you know, they've said, oh, Kelvin, he's never going to do anything good anyways, he's too old, right? And I kind of think, well, that's fine. I can see how you're at that life stage where you would think that. But if you go around saying that, it's so negative. It's just slightly toxic, actually.
Yes.
So you want to avoid that. And if I can come back, and I'm fine with people thinking that about me, because I've also found through experience that it's nice to be underestimated. There's less stress on you, and often you can surprise people when people think, oh, okay, you can actually do something.
I mean, ageism is a real thing in many spheres, and why would ours be any different, I guess?
That's true. I think it's actually, I mean, even though I'm a gay man, I can see that for women, it's worse. It's very, I mean, I really think
It's a whole other topic.
Yes, get out there and take up space, because it's so, in Hong Kong,
This will be the title of this episode. This is so good for a title. Take up space. Thank you. Yes, awesome. So have you involved other people in the work, like in the production of the work, your friends, or have you done everything by yourself?
Oh, of course not. It's been a lot of things have been collaborative. I mean, technically, a lot of things I need to ask Lee and other instructors for advice on how to construct that big knot, or how
technical questions like that.
questions like that. But in terms of putting together, I mean, Aaron has been an incredible help. We go on these trips to pick up the canes together. I couldn't do this. I couldn't have done this without him. It's quite serious. I mean, I would have to find. I mean, at this point, I have a job. I can probably hire a student helper and tell her or him to help me set up all these canes. We'll go pick up, blah, blah. But, you know, because I'm working with another artist, and he's serious, and he knows that I am serious about this work too, that it works together. The support has been exactly what I've needed. Not that there haven't been moments of tension, but
if it's over,
if it's too rosy, you would never have to meet me anyways. Oh, it was so wonderful.
No, but I mean, if it's overall supportive and nice experience, like, you're very lucky to have that.
Yes, I mean, I am. And
I would assume that the majority of cases would be kind of the opposite, because like every artist thinks that they know best for how the art should be, maybe, or something. So yeah, so good for you.
He's an experienced artist compared to me. So as an arts practitioner, I have to put my ego aside and admit that, you know, he's right. I have to defer to him, but not without a struggle.
And not everybody's right, like,
no, but
all the time.
I mean, and I think we both appreciate that we both have a different language, if there's such a thing, aesthetic. There is some overlap. It's a Venn diagram that overlaps, but I mean, otherwise, it's fine. You know, I've been lucky to have him, and also there's a few. You probably have this. There's a few classmates that you get along with and you stay in touch with, and I think they provide more support than I give them credit for, or that I recognize. Because sometimes it just helps to talk about something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they will have done it before and have failed, and you can build on that. And I mean, I think that's, in a way, that's some of the best form of support that other artists can give, is that they've done the failing for you. And so here, for what it's worth, this is what happened, so maybe you can sidestep it. But because artists are artists, we won't listen and we'll do the failing ourselves.
Hey, maybe it won't be a failing when you do it.
Yes, that's true. There's always that hope.
You never know how things are going to come out. So you would say that community is important?
Yes, on many levels. Although, you know, I don't have a problem with my own company. Like, I'm a single child, I grew up by myself. I don't have a problem with working on my own. You know, when I was taking care of my parents, that was, you know, again, we didn't have a domestic helper, we didn't have any, you know, buddy around all the time that I could rely on.
Ah, the bee's here. Get away, please. Go. Shoo.
That was probably not the greatest idea, but never mind.
Okay, it went. Sorry, interruption again.
Best part of the whole interview.
I mean, it's the elements. Outside we are exposed.
Nature is dangerous.
Nature is taking over.
I'm a city boy. I stay away from it.
Yeah, me too. Me too, a little bit. But there's a lot of nature around here, so.
Yeah, I mean.
Surprisingly, because the idea of Hong Kong usually is not that.
The distances are so small that you can get to the hills and the beaches very quickly.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is, you know, it's just high rises.
Probably I would need to ask you later on, like if I meet you again in a few years, how this place would affect your work, because I'm curious about that, but you still haven't experienced enough of working as an artist independently.
I mean, I'd be interested in talking to you about this as well, because in Hong Kong there is always a question of who speaks for Hong Kong. Like, what does it mean to be a Hong Kong artist? what are your themes, what are your topics, what are your, credentials in a way. Are you grassroots enough? Are you getting into, there's a lot of that. And I often think, well, I grew up here and elsewhere. I was born here. That doesn't really mean that much now. But I almost feel like it might be fun to spend the rest of my life sort of elsewhere. I don't need to be here now, and I've had a wonderful time here. So, and also,
you can also come and go.
Yes, I mean, you're transplanted too, in a way, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I see both Bulgaria and Finland as homes now. Even though one artist told me once, when I mentioned to her that I would like to kind of try to be in both fronts, she said it's a waste of energy.
Why?
I mean, I can see how if you focus on one thing, there are some benefits to that. But also, if you have these kinds of, I don't want to say influences, but just inspiration. But
yes, experience. Yes,
from multiple places, it's only enriching.
I suppose if you, to say you want to be staying in one place there's a sort of career narrative, like you're building up. Because you're there, you're present, and you can shape it more powerfully, I suppose. But I've always been a bit of a scatterbrain. I'm just like, I can't focus. Let's go somewhere else. I'm tired of this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, I have that a little bit too. I understand.
And in Europe, you're so lucky because you can travel around easily, I think. In Hong Kong, I suppose you could still. It's
still
similar,
pretty
the same.
Big hub, Hong Kong, so you must have flights to many places.
Yes, flights to many places.
Pretty easily also. But yeah, the amount of countries around you are not so much as in Europe. Countries are just bigger here.
It's just, it's always staggering because growing up in Canada, the scale of things, you think about distances differently. It's such a larger scale. And every time I go to Europe, I'm always astonished that, well, actually, I could be 3 countries away by the afternoon. When I'm having breakfast, I can, think about being so far. So it's just mind-blowing to me. I love it. I like that. And in Hong Kong, really still, it's very Chinese-based. We talk about multiculturalism a lot, but it's not like when I was in London. It's just an incredible range of just walking down the streets. I am maybe too naive right now. I think I warm to that. I think that that's a great thing. Maybe if I actually lived there, it may be different. I don't know.
You have to try and see.
I think so. I'd like to give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you get the shot and get more shots.
And to come to Finland.
Yes. Not in November, though.
I think not, yes.
Not in November.
I kind of... Canada, I know I have...
Oh yeah, you do have some experience.
I have some experience with that.
Do you go to exhibitions here otherwise? Openings and just generally, how often do you go to exhibitions?
As often as I can. Not necessarily openings all the time. I think it's nice to meet people at openings, even though apparently if you're an art snob, you don't go to openings to look at the art, right? That's not the point. But so you have to go back to look at the art another time. But as I said, there's a lot of multinational galleries here. And there are the major art fairs, so it's great to go to those. Although some of them you have to pay an arm and a leg to get into. The art fairs, Art Basel is...
Isn't it all fairs that you have to pay to get in? I've only been to one as an attending, so
Some of, I mean, as a student, we can sometimes get some freebies to go in, and you can ask. I know my classmates have helped as. What do they call those? Not gallery assistants, sort of art fair stall assistants. They need people to be on staff there. So a lot of them are students, actually.
Oh, interesting.
And you can go and get some exposure, and I mean, maybe not as an artist for your work, but you can, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I met you, was I told Lee, you know, I want to know how these things work. I want to get in on the action, even if it's not going to be furthering my career. But there's nothing like, you know, doing it to figure out, oh, well, the visitor artist, there's all these different things that they require. How are we going to coordinate that with the galleries? What does the curator, like Jamson, have to say? Where's, you know, what's the final word on it?
Yeah, maybe it's good to mention here that you have been an assistant in this project that I'm participating in. Because if somebody's listening, like,
oh, yes.
What's the connection there? So that's the connection there.
So,
and you have been showing us around and answering stupid questions and all that. So yeah, I very much appreciated it.
No,
I could just ask, where can I find bubble wrap, for example?
No, that's how it's. You have you found it?
I did.
Okay, because you need to know, and that's part of being an artist, right? It's sort of like the everyday, the mundane, the pedestrian issues that you have to deal. If you don't know it, then you have this idea that, oh, you know, being an artist is doing the studio and then glamorously showing up for champagne at the opening. I mean, it was like, you mean nobody has bought the champagne for the opening? What's wrong with you people? This is so important. Anyways, you know, things like that, getting involved was important. We need to have lunch.
Yes, we need to have lunch and not boil before that.
How did we get onto this? Getting involved?
Well, after you graduate, you either continue by getting involved or you drop it. So I guess it's a logical step. If you're interested in continuing this.
You know, for me, I guess I've gotten a sense that, you know, real artists don't have a day job and then just do the art on the side. But
this is a thought many people have, I think. And that's why I always ask people how they sustain their practice, because I know that people don't live on air, in the air. And there's a lot of aspects to it, and most of the artists need to have a job. And okay, maybe not all of them. If you are very rich, coming from a rich family, inheriting a lot of money, maybe you don't need to work something else. But I would say the vast majority of people at some point in their life need to do that. So I want to just open up that to, some might say that it's like demystifying, but to set up the right expectations of what it is to be an artist professionally after you graduate, because it's a lot of misconceptions, I would think.
Coming from a literature background, I mean, many writers, at least writing in the English language side of things, of Kafka, who wrote Metamorphoses, was, what was he? He was a clerk or something. A lot of these artists, authors, had a day job. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it, right? They were not all, you know, Proust or whatever, who came from backgrounds where they could just, they weren't all upper class or bourgeois sort of families. What do they call them now? Nepo babies? Yes.
Nepo babies.
You have to work. So maybe on the literature side, it's not a big deal. You know, you have to edit, you have to get a job as an editor or a writer or something, and then by night you write your poetry or you write your drama or whatever it is.
I mean, there's always the art markets that we've been also mentioning, but that's a little different practice than if you only rely on sales for the art.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I thought when I first joined as a painter. You know, your target is to do work that is good enough for a gallery to want to pick you up. And how can you make it meaningful and important in a larger art context, as well as being something that people will want to buy? That's a different question, and one that I didn't figure out because I gave it up.
Well, you already have a job, you don't need to worry. Strictly speaking, like, of course, people always worry, but
Yes.
not as much as somebody who doesn't have a job, let's say.
Yes. No, I mean, in a way, we'll see. I mean, because as a writer on the writing side, a lot of people are saying, well, AI will replace you. You don't, and there is a lot of that now happening. But I think, again, it's not all black and white like that. I mean, I have already seen some blowback against AI in my field, in terms of writing and the skills that are involved, as well as in the way that you think when you use it to create a piece of writing, which applies to a visual use of AI as well, right? So it's not all black and white. And I think, you know, what do they call it? The algorithm, the whatever it is, the whole shape of the technology will change in reaction to these responses. And it's interesting, but I think there's always a way to provide value from your human input that takes advantages of whatever gaps there are in the technology side. So in that sense, sorry, a bit of a diversion.
No.
I have to work, I have to pay the rent. I don't make any apologies for keeping that going, but I will do it in a way which will allow me to do artwork, continue art practice, and also hopefully travel. I mean, if, you know, technology has resulted in being able to do remote working, then again, the optimist says, well, why not, right? Great.
Well, thank you. Let's wrap up this before we melt. It's getting really hot. Like
It's not that hot.
It's
not that hot.
no, it's very nice. It's like a beach experience a little bit.
Yes, actually. Did you wear sunscreen?
I wear a little bit sunscreen, but
We need to get
I
some
think
more.
my arm is burning.
It's heating up. Okay, we should go.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.